Well, thank you, Megan. We've had a chance to go through this advisory from the Army's Threat Integration Center that issues early warnings for criminal and terrorist threats to Army commands worldwide. And the advisory warns military personnel and their families to be vigilant after the Islamic State, also known as ISIS or ISIL, called on its supporters to target their homes. It reads in part, ISIL has called on lone offenders in the U.S. to use the Yellow Pages, social media sites like Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter to find the addresses of service members, show up at their homes, and slaughter them. While there's no independent corroboration of the ISIS threats, the bulletin advises more than a dozen precautions that include urging service members to limit who can view their social media profile, to avoid posting any government or military affiliation, daily schedules, contact information, and to avoid all applications that geolocate their position. Asked to comment, an Army spokesman told Fox News the threat level had not been raised, adding, "This document is a reminder to stay vigilant. It provides renewed emphasis on force protection measures to ensure the safety and security of personnel and communities." A military source told Fox News these warnings are taken seriously because increasing the cost of security is a strategic goal for the al-Qaeda senior leadership. Megan.
Wow, chilling. Catherine, thank you.
You're welcome.
Joining me now with more, Buck Sexton, a former CIA officer and specialist for the NYPD Intelligence Division. He is now the national security editor at The Blaze. And that is just, I mean, downright disturbing. Telling the military, limit who can view your online profiles, don't post your schedules, don't allow the geolocators. In their homes now they're worried about being threatened. Is this real?
The threat is real, but the response, and that's the proper response we saw from the military there, which is just going to be vigilance. It shouldn't be fear. This is not a new threat, by the way. It's heightened because of the status of the Islamic State right now as a ground for plotting these kinds of attacks. And also its social media campaign is just more far-reaching, more slick, and so far has been more effective than anything we've seen before by a terrorist organization. But all of that said, we have had instances in the past where terrorist groups have, in some cases successfully and others unsuccessfully because they were disrupted, have tried to have these kind of plots against military bases and personnel. So it's not a new threat, but it feels heightened because of the social media aspect and because of the Islamic State's power right now.
I mean, obviously we have seen attacks in the name of Islamic extremism, like down at Fort Hood, on our military. However, we also saw in England a military soldier walking down the street, minding his own business, not performing in any official capacity, get killed to death with a man wielding a hatchet who ran over to the cameras with his bloody hands and admitted it. I mean, is this the next threat on the U.S. military here? This is the extension, really, of the lone wolf threat that the Islamic State and al-Qaeda and other jihadist groups have been pushing for some time, which is for people to self-radicalize, decide that they're going to be a jihad of one and not even with any connection necessarily to an outside group or any outside sponsoring from a group.
Right, because over and over again you hear people say, like in the Oklahoma case, well, there's no connection to official al-Qaeda or ISIS has been established. Well, who cares? I mean, that would be big if there were one, but if there isn't one, it doesn't mean that they're not a radical jihadist.
The concern with external plotting is usually that the attack will be larger. There'll be mass casualties because there'll be training involved, resources given by al-Qaeda or the Islamic State, for example. In a lone wolf attack, you tend to have an individual who doesn't have the same level of operational security and may get tripped up, which is what happened, for example, at with the Fort Dix plot in New Jersey in 2007. Those individuals were sloppy. They were planning, Megan, they actually bought, and the FBI caught them, assault weapons. They were going to go onto the Fort Dix base and they were going to try to kill as many service members and their families and anyone else there as they could. They were stopped. So it's just a question of trying to pick out these lone wolves beforehand. But that all said, there's no perfect security here. The most you can do is be vigilant as that military.
And I mean, at least the military is trained to deal in combat. You know, God forbid they were confronted in this fashion, although you're walking down the street, you know, doing your grocery shopping, you're not expecting this kind of confrontation. How much of this is an attempt by these folks to scare, you know, that when you see the word slaughter them, I mean, there's something sort of grandiose about it on their part. Are they trying to scare?
No question they're trying to scare. And the terrorizing part of terrorism is very much what they're going for. And they're hoping that we're going to all constantly walk around in fear. Look, if they go after the U.S. military, it's essentially going to be them requesting their own annihilation. Mm-hmm. And they may want that, but that would be what would happen. It would actually be, I think, a strategic mistake for them. They may do it anyway, but we should just be vigilant, not fearful.
I mean, we weren't bombing Syria until they started beheading our journalists. I can't imagine what it would do if they started actually, quote, slaughtering U.S. military personnel.
They go after military families, we will end them.
Good to see you, Buck.
You too.